Great. Okay, so now that that's set, we're going to work on Align and Hold version 3 for today. And today, the sutra that I'm really interested in is my teacher's favorite sutra, and it's Yoga Sutra 2.16. And he thinks that all of us should memorize this sutra of all the sutras in the Yoga Sutra because he says it's the key to our future happiness. And essentially, Yoga Sutra 2.16 says, heyam, dukham, anagatum. And that essentially means that future suffering can be avoided. And it seems to him that that is the most important sutra in all of it because it reminds us that we have the power of choice in every given moment, in every given situation, relationship, you name it, that we have the moment to choose. Are we going to create actions that's going to create more suffering in our life in this moment and down the road? Or are we going to choose the solution that will be best for us in order to make sure that future suffering is avoidable and that pain, as much as it is a part of life, doesn't need to have this suffering component in addition to that. So with that being said, we're going to do Align and Hold version 3 today. And I need you to make sure that you've got at least 2 blocks, a blanket, and we won't need a strap for today. And so the first 3 minutes of every Align and Hold is you get to do whatever you want to do. So I'm going to go ahead and start my timer here. And the first 3 minutes are for you to prepare your body. So whatever things you feel like you might need in order to prevent future suffering or to prepare your body for what comes next, I encourage you to just take the opportunity to explore that now. So some of you might want to do some gentle movements, some cats or cows. Some of you might just want to be still and breathe. It's totally and completely up to you, but you're just using these first few minutes as the opportunity to just check in, just to see where you are and how you are. I cannot speak for any of you, but I know that most of my suffering comes from really not being connected and in tune with myself, with my needs. And then, of course, because I'm not connected, I react or respond in ways that aren't always so beneficial to me or the people that I love and am involved with. So as each of you is in your own way, checking in, tuning in, I invite you to start to pay attention to just how the breath is moving. So in many ways, you're responding to what the body is needing, where energy feels stuck, or where it feels like it likes to open or needs to open. But once we've started paying attention to the body, how can we become more attuned, more aware of some of the subtle essences or aspects of the body, which include the breath, where the breath wants to go, how it wishes to move. You've got about another minute or so, so I encourage you to do any last minute things that feel like they might be nurturing and nourishing to you. Nice. And as you start to feel complete with whatever little pre-morning things you were doing, I encourage you to start to make your way up to your hands and your knees, and we'll set up for our first shape. Okay, so for our first shape, many of you will want to place your blanket down in the middle of your mat if your knees happen to be sensitive. You'll also plant your blocks a little bit forward. So if my butt is on my heels, my blocks are maybe about a foot in front of me, and they're on their second or first setting. And then from there, you'll make sure they're shoulder distance apart and walk one elbow and then the other elbow onto your blocks. And if you don't have blocks, you can just walk your hands forward. And then keeping your butt glued to your feet, elbow crawl forward until you find a nice gentle stretch across the upper back. Allow your head to descend between the arm bones and start to press the palms towards each other. The hands might start to then come back towards the nape of the neck, or they might just stay with the fingertips pointing up to the sky. But you're going to just find yourself in this first modified version of child's pose. And the invitation is to first observe, experience how the body is doing right now. Where is their sensation? And for today, we'll bring our awareness most specifically to our breath. So as you take the next 3 to 5 breaths here, I encourage you to just observe where the breath feels free to move, and observe where the breath maybe feels a little bit more constricted. Nice job, guys. From here, start to pay attention to the length of the breath and maybe the sound of the breath. So you might start to constrict the back of the throat and invite in a gentle Ujjayi pranayama. And the breath is just as loud as you need it to steady your mind. When we have a steady mind, it enables us to react and respond and to show up in the way we most desire to. It lets our actions be clear and concise. And as you take this last about minute or so here, I encourage you to notice the length of the breath. Can the inhalation and the exhalation find a sense of equanimity and ease? So maybe that means your inhale is maybe 6 counts, and then the exhale works to be 6 counts. Maybe the breath is shorter, or maybe it's longer. As best as you can, just allow the breath to continue to be your teacher, to be your guide for the remainder of our time together. You'll take your last 3 breath cycles here. And then at the end of your exhalation, you'll start to shift your hands forward, shift your weight forward, coming to forearms and knees. From there, remove the blocks and bring your palms down to the mat. Bring the hands shoulder distance apart and spread wide through the fingers. Go ahead and tuck both sets of toes under and then lift your hips up and back. Knees stay pretty bent. Now for our first down dog, let's go ahead and lift up through our happy armpits. Wrap your triceps back towards your thighs. Press your hands down and forward, shoulders down and forward, hips up and back. And then notice if you can send the inner thighs back and apart. And then you'll have your next series of breaths here, noticing if you can soften any space or congestion around the shoulders. Keep the legs as active as they wish to be. So maybe you start to pull the kneecaps up and reach the heels back and towards the floor. And again, as the body is still, bring your awareness to the breath. How is the inhalation? How is the exhalation? Can you hear the sound of your breath? Does it sound smooth and steady and even? Is the in-breath as long as the out-breath? Is the out-breath as long as the in-breath? And so as we're here, we'll just chit-chat at you for a little bit. You continue to breathe. You continue to notice sensation as it rises, and notice the reaction that you have. So some of you know this, but I've been taking a class on the Yoga Sutras with my teacher. And I guess yesterday or the day before, he was talking about karma, everyone's favorite subject. And he was saying that there are 4 stages of karma. And he likened it to how growth happens for a plant. So my gardeners out there, you'll like this. In essence, he said that karma's 4 stages are such. Sometimes there's a seed. Sometimes there's a seedling. Sometimes there's a plant. And sometimes there's an oak tree. Take your last 2 exhalations here. And then when you inhale, you'll find more length on your spine. And exhale, slowly bend the knees and start to walk your feet towards your face. When you get to the top of your space, you might slide a block between the inner shin bones or just not, but make sure your feet are hip distance apart. And you can either grab opposite elbow. You can allow the hands to relax down on the floor, maybe grab the back of your head. But wherever you are, let's see if we can all shift our weight forward a little bit so the weight is spread even between the ball of the foot and the heel of the foot. Energize your legs so the inner and outer edges of the thighs are both active. And then notice if you can draw the kneecaps up as you descend the head down. Great. Now as you're here, take in the awareness of your breath. Is the inhale even? Is the exhale even? Do they both have the same length? Okay. Got about another 5 to 10 breath cycles here. Notice where you can soften, remembering that every moment is the moment to rewrite your future, your destiny. Every moment we're planting seeds or germinating seeds or nurturing plants or living under our oak trees. So see if you can just observe where you are at this moment. Where can you soften and settle just a little bit more on the patterns that are not helping? On your next exhalation, gently release your hands to the floor if they're not there. And then inhale, slide your hands up, your shins, spine comes parallel to the floor. Hands might need to come to thighs if that's necessary. And then you're gonna push your hands into your shins, push your shins into your hands. Draw the shoulder blades onto your back, yep, and reach your head out of your neck, yeah. And then you'll just observe what's happening in the back of the legs. With every exhalation, notice if the belly can come to support the length of the spine. With every inhalation, continue to experience length happening into the spine. And again, you're just observing, noticing the inhale, noticing the exhale are the same length. You've got about 3 more breath cycles here. How calm, how smooth, how steady can you make your breath? Nice job, guys. Gently start to draw your hands to heart center. Bend your knees forward to a 90-degree angle and bring your spine up to vertical. Now you can stay here with your hands at heart center or extend your arms up and alongside your ears for Utkatasana, chair pose. But wherever you are, I want you to feel like your soles of your feet are spreading wide and your pinky toes are going out as far as they can isometrically until you feel the outer hips start to engage. And then notice if you need to descend the pelvis a little bit more or reach up through the pinky fingers and the sternum a little bit more. And then bring your awareness to your mouth, soften any tension in your jaw. Bring your awareness to your breath and notice how it's doing right here, right now. So I think my teacher likes heyam, dukham, anagatum the most because it reminds us that in every given moment, every interaction that we have the potential to plant seeds. We have the potential to weed out plants that are unwanted in our gardens. We have the chance and the opportunity to cultivate the plants that we wish to have in our gardens. And so as you're here, I invite you to notice how you're responding to the sensations that are coming up. Our practice is in very cool way a good teacher for what we do off the mat, for how we respond to those challenging situations with our loved ones, with our job, with traffic. And you've got another 3 breath cycles here, and you'll just observe how you are showing up now, how it's feeling now. And if that's the type of seed you wish to plant, the type of plant you wish to nurture, type of tree you wish to rest underneath. On your next in-breath, stand up, reach up, look up. Notice if you can draw the tailbone down, the backs of the legs down, the heart and sternum lift. And you can choose to keep your arms up and overhead or just lower the arms out to the side for the last 30 seconds here in this shape. And you're just pausing and you're breathing. You're noticing how the breath is working, how the mind is working, how you are working. Nice job. If your hands are up and overhead, please lower them alongside your hips. Everyone go ahead and remove your block. And I encourage you to bring one block to the top of your space and one block to the back of your space. If you only have one block, just keep it at the top of your space and we'll travel it with us. And then let's turn to face the long edge of our mat. And separate your feet at least 3 or 4 feet apart, depending upon how long your legs are. Now we're going to start with our right leg forward. So turn your right toes to face the short edges of your mat, and then turn your left toes into the right just a little bit. And you might want to separate your feet right to left widthwise. Yep, and then you're going to bend that front knee. Bring your right hand to the inside edge of your right foot on block or floor. Left hand still at left hip. And then you might choose to stay here, just first pushing down through both feet, sucking them in. You might reach your left arm back and alongside your hip, and then like a pizza slicer coming across the horizon, bring your arm forward. Yep. And then from here, take a moment to pause. Can the heart still be open even as you're in this challenging pose? Press down into the right foot, right heel, left pinky toe, left foot. And then you'll notice the breath here. How is the inhale? How is the exhale? There's a real strong possibility that the breath has suddenly become labored. And anatomy has a part to play in that. With your right arm down, your left lung is on top, and we only have 2 lobes on that side. So knowing that, can you soften any of the mental agitation that might be coming up? Can you soften any tension around your jaw? And can you continue to notice what seeds you're planting by the thoughts that you're thinking? And you've got, I don't know, another 5 to 10 breath cycles depending upon how you're breathing. And I want you to see if you can start to slow down that breath. Maybe even to the point that you can momentarily pause at the top of the inhalation. And maybe even momentarily pause at the bottom of the exhalation. Nice work, guys. Take your last 3 breath cycles here. Nice work. If you've only got one block, you'll gently reach back through that left hand, take the right hand and block with you as you straighten the right leg and come up to stand. From here, turn both toes in so they're parallel to the long edge of your mat. Take a moment to pause here, making the legs as parallel to each other as needed. And you're just pausing. We're giving ourselves that momentary reprieve to notice that we have the power of choice. I can't speak for any of you, but I must admit for me, COVID was a blessing in the sense that it gave me time to pause. It gave me space to pause. As we continue to go back into life, how can we keep some of those valuable lessons we've learned? All right, let's go ahead and try the other side. So turn your left toes to face the left end of your mat. Turn the right toes to the left. You might need to widen your legs a little bit, right to left. And then from here, bend that front knee. Keep your right hand on your right hip for a moment. And then maybe slide that left hand down to the block or floor inside of your front foot. As you get there, push down through both feet, hug both feet in, and then you might keep that right hand as it is, or reach your right hand back alongside your pelvis, turn the palm, and then pizza slicer, draw the hand along the horizon until it's over your head. Great. Now, once you found yourself there, once you re-engage the legs, so draw that outer left hip back, outer right hip forward. Notice if you can keep the heart open. Steady the gaze and pay attention to your breath. Now on this side, with your left hand down and your right rib cage up, notice how the breath is. Because our heart's on the other side, we have 3 lobes on this side. So notice if that makes it a little easier for you to take in a deeper breath. Sometimes the things that, well, actually all the things that create so much suffering in our life, according to the Yoga Sutras, is avidya. And one of the things my teacher's been talking a lot about is it's this misapprehension, it's a forgetting, it's a not clear seeing. So sometimes knowing that one part of the body has an extra part, meaning the right side or the left side has an extra lung, enables us to notice that the difference might not be something that we need to beat ourselves up over. Sometimes seeing and really understanding the nature of a relationship allows us to show up in that relationship a little bit better. Sometimes seeing and knowing the relationship that we have with ourselves and our own moods and temperaments allows us to be a bit more kind to ourselves and thus show up in a better way or a different way when we are with ourselves. So as you take these last few breath cycles here, I encourage you to just notice what seeds you're planting. Are they seeds of compassion? Are we able to be okay with where we are as we are? Nice job. Take your last 3 breath cycles here. And then at the end of your 3rd exhalation, you'll go ahead and come back up to stand, removing that block en route if need be. Turn both feet so they're parallel to the short edges of your mat. Make sure the feet are parallel towards one another. And just pause here. Notice if you can allow the body to be still. Allow the sensations to start to reveal themselves to you. Awesome sauce. You got 2 more breath cycles here. How is it to just stand in stillness? Nice. Okay. Now you can bring your hands to your hips. Draw your shoulder blades onto the back. Lift your sternum and heart. And before we go anywhere, I want you to press down through your pinky toes like they're little lightning bolts. Lift the heart a little bit more. And as you exhale, draw the belly in and start to hinge at your hips. So your pelvis starts to go back a little bit as the head teeters forward. And you might stay at 90 degrees and then just lower the hands down to the floor underneath the shoulders. You might slide the hands all the way down the legs to grab the outer edges of the ankles. Awesome. And when we find ourselves in this shape, first things first is notice if your bum has swung a lot or really far back and see if you can come forward just a little bit. So the weight is still pretty balanced between the balls of the feet and the heels of the feet. If you'd like, you'll bring your breath to a 1-to-1, meaning your inhalation and exhalation are equal. If that's pretty easy for you, you might start to work to a 1-to-2, meaning if you breathe in for 4, you're exhaling for 8. And if you've taken that latter option, just observe what that does to your internal state of being. And just as a heads up, certain shapes like forward folds make 1-to-2 breathing a lot more accessible, mostly because of the position of the diaphragm, mostly in position of really, you're in this contracted position. So we've got another 3 to 5 breaths, depending upon how you're breathing. And I just encourage you to just observe and to notice what you notice. How is the breath? How is the mind? What seeds are you planting? Nice work, guys. Okay. If your hands are on your ankles, gently release your ankles and bring your hands underneath your shoulders. Okay. From here, you're going to turn to face the top of your space and come into a low lunge. From there, step your front foot back to meet your back foot. And then everyone just lower your knees to the mat. Lower your forearms down to the mat. And you might interlace your hands or keep your hands at a number 11 shape. From here, I want you to walk your knees back until it feels like there's one long line from your head through your shoulders, through your butt. So we're making a plank position. So Tim, come forward, keep your shoulders over your elbows. Yep, and just walk your knees back. So now we're in this like forearm plank position. Oh, buddy man. And some of you will stay here with your knees down and a one long line from your knees to your butt, to your shoulders, to your head. Others of you will tuck your toes under and lift your knees off of the floor. Wherever you are, Tim, lower your knees down, tuck the toes under. So the other way. Yeah, and then lift legs back off. And from here, I want everyone to push down into your elbows, lift up through your happy inner armpits. And those of you that have your legs straight, lengthen your tailbone back with every in-breath. And with every exhale, it feels like the pubic bone is coming to the belly button is coming to the spine. Now, if you'd like, you go back to that 1-to-1 breath or the 1-to-2 breath. And wherever you choose to be, I encourage you to plant the seeds that help you most. So sometimes things are difficult and we might want to avoid them. But by avoiding the discomfort in the present moment, it causes future suffering. You know, like any of us who've studied for an exam know that the more we put off studying for the exam, then we have to cram, and that's not so much fun. Whereas if we're like, oh, I don't want to study for this exam, and we force ourselves to study for the exam, when the exam gets there, we're a little less freaked out by it. Another thing could be about like learning lines or starting an art project or rehearsing music. Sometimes it's just the starting that feels like it's a little hard, but we know that the end result is a lot better. So you've got about, I don't know, another 5 to 10 breaths, depending upon how you're breathing. And I want you to just observe what thoughts you're telling yourself right now. Are you telling yourself this is too hard? I'm not strong enough? And you're just noticing. There's nothing wrong with any of these thoughts. We just don't want to tend to them. We don't want those seeds to become giant oak trees. All right, take your last breath cycle here and then exhale and lower onto your abdomen. Awesome sauce. All right, and you're just going to rest on your belly, head down, feet flop out however they want to. You're just going to rest on your belly. And you're going to notice, how are you doing now? How's the body now? How's the breath now? Awesome sauce. All right. Let's go ahead and bring our hands alongside our rib cage. Spread wide through your hands like you're palming a basketball and keep your forehead glued to the floor for a little bit. And then separate your feet about hip distance apart and press down into your big toenails and your pinky toenails a lot. Roll your inner thighs up as you lift your kneecaps and lengthen your tailbone back. Now with the hands alongside the ribs, push down into the hands a little bit and then notice that isometrically you can spin the thumbs away from each other like you're opening a jar and your shoulder blades will come onto your back. Yep. And then you can start to lift your ears in line with the tops of your shoulders. Yep. And over the next series of 3 breaths, you're going to inhale and come as far up into your baby cobra as you'd like. As you reach back through your toes and your legs, you hug your shoulder blades onto your back body. You keep your legs active. And then in this shape, I want you to pay attention to your breath. Every inhalation draws the sternum forward and the tailbone back. Every exhalation invites that pubic bone to navel to spine. And then notice the length of your neck. Maybe you need to draw your chin to your chest just a little bit. Maybe you need to reach out, there you go, through your ears a little bit more. And as best as you can for these last few breath cycles here, engage the shoulder blades onto the back body. So it's almost more like your whole back is what's working here, kind of because it is. And you're just breathing. You're noticing the thoughts that come up. Remembering that we are not the sensations. We are always the observer. We're the witness. I can see that thing. I know that thing is not me. Take your last 3 breath cycles here. And on your next exhalation, you'll slowly lower down. Draw an ear to the mat and swing your hands back alongside your hips, palms face down. And you're just pausing and you're breathing. Go ahead and draw the other ear to the mat. And again, you're just pausing and you're breathing. Noticing what you notice. It's very interesting. I think the hardest thing of all of life is learning to let go. Yogis were so smart on that. All right. Okay, so let's bring our forehead back to center. And once again, energize each of your legs. So tops of the feet press down, inner thighs lift, tailbone lengthens back. With your hands alongside your hips, let's draw our shoulders up towards our ears and draw the shoulder blades onto the back. And then notice that you can lift your ears in line with the tops of your shoulders. Yep, and you got a giant long lightning rod from your neck through your head. On your next in-breath, you'll start to crawl your fingers back and maybe slightly wide, and notice that enables you to lift the chest a little bit further up. Now, before we go anywhere, keep lengthening that tailbone back. Keep drawing that pubic bone in and up, and think of reaching the sternum forward to lift the head a little bit more. Yeah, nice. Now, if you're ready, you can stay happily here. This is great. You might reach so far back through the toes that they reach up and away from the floor. Whole legs are long, hamstrings engaged, tailbones lengthening back. Now we encourage all of you to try this. Bend your elbows so the elbows point up towards the sky. Yep. Draw the shoulder blades onto the back, reach the heart and sternum forward. And you might stay here as this awkward Superman, Superwoman. You might reach the fingers back until the hands are in line with the height of your elbows. Oh, yeah, look at you go. And then you're going to pause, then you're going to breathe, then you're going to notice what you notice. And the sensation starts to build in our locust shalavasana, Superman, Superwoman shape. I encourage you to just breathe. You are not the sensations. You are the one that's witnessing them. And so as the body starts to shake, as the breath perhaps becomes more shallow or more rapid or even more effortful, you are the one that's observing all this. Keep lengthening chin towards the sternum. Yep, crown of the head long. And you've got your last 3 breath cycles here. The end of your 3rd exhalation, you'll slowly lower down to the floor. Draw an ear to the mat and just breathe. Can you hear the sound of your own breath? Can you feel the heartbeat as it presses into the chest and the chest pushes into the floor? Nice. All right. Okay. So for this next one, we're going to see how this goes. Let's go ahead and come up to hands and knees. So walk your hands underneath your shoulders, press yourselves up. Great. And from here, you're going to lower your forearms back down to the floor. You can interlace your hands if you'd like, or keep that number 11 shape. Now, before we go anywhere, make sure your elbows are directly stacked over, or rather your shoulders are stacked directly over your elbows. So that's like a 90-degree angle in the elbows. Then you're going to round through your spine a lot like a Halloween cat. And some of you will walk one foot back and then the other and come into a forearm plank once again. Some of you will start to walk your feet towards each other and come into a dolphin shape. Whichever shape you're working towards, we're going to lift up through our happy inner armpits. You're going to push down through your forearms. Nice job, guys. Tim, you're doing great. Bend your knees. Yep, and start to walk your feet towards your face. Bring your head down to the floor. Yeah, there you go. And that's as far as you need to go. And so because this one is a much more challenging shape, future pain can be avoided. So you are challenging you know whether or not you need to go a little bit further, hang out a little bit more, or whether or not you need to come out. So all of us are lifting up through our inner armpits as though someone had suspenders in the front parts of your armpits and they're lifting that up. Yep, you're pushing down through the forearms and finding length through the waist. There you go, Jenny. And finding length through the legs. And then softening any tension in your neck. So it's almost like your chin is coming a little bit more towards the sternum and the back of the neck stays long. There you go, Erica. And you're just breathing. Yeah. Make sure your head is not touching the floor. Yep. And you've got your last 4 breath cycles here. Nice work. When you're ready, you'll lower the knees back down to the mat and you'll sit tall on your shin bones. You can take toe squat here if you'd like, or just sit for Vajrasana, but we've got 1 minute on the clock. And you're just going to pause and you're going to breathe and you're going to see if you can be still. See if you can be still. One of the fun things I love about movement, love about dance is when the body is moving the fastest, the mind is moving the slowest. It's very strange, but if my mind gets frenetic when I need to have my body move very quickly through movement, I can't do it. But if the mind can remain calm and still, the body can move quite quickly. And I'm guessing for those of you that play an instrument, it's probably something similar. The mind has to be very clear, very calm to move that quickly. And yet when we are slow, mind just races all over the place. All right, you got your last 3 breath cycles here. And at the end of your 3rd exhalation, you'll come forward, tops of the feet pitter patter to the floor or counter stretch if you were in toe squat. And then when you're ready, we'll swing ourselves over onto your sit bones. And some of you might need to sit up on a blanket. And if so, the blanket has started off, if this is the standard quarter, you fold it again. So it's now an 1/8, and you fold it again. So now it's a 1/16. And then you'll put your butt on your blanket if you're using that. Okay, and both legs are in front of you. Cross your left ankle over your right thigh. Draw your right heel pretty close to your right butt. And everyone, make sure both hands are behind you, fingertips face away. And I want you to first push down through the hands to lift the heart up. Flex through your left foot a lot. Bye, Tim. Have a great day. And then see if you can lift the sternum. So I want us to get to a different shape today. So I need us to pay attention to our sacrum. So the top of your sacrum is coming forward, and you're broadening through the collarbones as you're stretching that outer hip. So we're pushing the left ankle against the top of the right thigh. We're trying to sit as tall as we can onto our sit bones. So top of sacrum is still coming forward. And then you're noticing if you can soften the shoulders away from the ears and just pause and breathe. And you're just noticing what you notice. How is the breath now? Is that samavriti, meaning 1-to-1 breath, still happening? Or can you go back to 1-to-2 breath? The exhale maybe is twice as long as the inhale. Got about another 30 seconds here. I'm just going to pause and you're going to breathe. And then very gently, you might need to walk your hands back to slide your right leg forward. And then you'll release the shape back to Dandasana. And just take a moment to pause and see how things are there. Sitting as tall as you can. Top of sacrum is still coming forward. Great. Flex through both feet if possible. Let heart lift and shoulder blades drop. Yep. Great. Okay, we'll try the other side. So cross your right ankle over the top of your left thigh. Bend your left knee and draw your left heel pretty close to your pelvis. Hands are still back behind you, fingertips face out. And this time I want you to bend the elbows a little bit, draw the shoulder blades onto the back and lift the heart and sternum up. So it's almost like that little Superman we were doing at the very beginning. So the shoulder blades are coming onto back. You're flexing through the right foot and you're breathing wherever you happen to experience sensation. And just noticing. It's very funny how sometimes it's the smallest things that can have the most profound impact. And I think the yogis spent so much time talking about amnivesha. So amnivesha is one of the 5 kleshas. The first one we started talking about earlier today, which was avidya, which is ignorance. We forget our connection to the grand scheme of life, and so we can feel alone. And then, of course, that causes a smita, where we have this false sense of self, and then that causes us to become attached to things that confirm and support that false sense of self and avoid the things that don't confirm that false sense of self. So that becomes raga and dvesha. And then we get to the 5th, which is amnivesha. And amnivesha is often translated as fear of loss or change or death. So anything that has to become something new is a big fear for us. And the yogis are really smart. They started noticing that by paying attention to the breath, we learn how to better be able to deal with that 5th one. And we better learn how to deal with all the other ones. We become aware of where we're attached, where we're avoiding things, how we see the world, where we remain ignorant or have clear seeing. Okay, go ahead and release. So send both legs in front of you and just pause for a moment in Dandasana. And you just notice what you notice. How is the breath here? Can the heart stay lifted? Top of sacrum come in. Great. Okay, let's go ahead and add on, or move on rather. Bend your left knee once again. Left foot can cross to the outside edge of your right thigh. Right leg can be straight, or you can bend your right knee and draw your right heel outside of your left hip. So we're going to press down into our left big toe, wrap your right arm around your left shin, and bring your left hand back behind you. It might be more to the left, or it might actually be behind you. And then inhale, push down, lift up through your spine, and exhale, gentle rotation towards your left. And you'll just stay here, and you'll notice that every inhalation can create more length through the vertebra. Every exhalation can invite a little bit more twist. And it's not coming because I'm forcing my right arm into my left leg. It's coming because I'm allowing the belly to evacuate. I'm letting go, and that enables a deeper twist. And so as you're here, I'd like you to notice that. How's the breath now? Is that 1 to 2 breath possible, or does it feel better doing 1 to 1? And perhaps something I should have mentioned at the beginning is, as we work towards pranayama, which is controlling the breath, specifically getting to retentions of the breath, we want to make it be as effortless as possible. So as you're here and you're breathing, notice where you can soften. And we'll take our last 3 to 5 breaths here. Top of sacrum still comes forward, spine lifts up. Yep. At the end of your next exhalation, you'll gently unwind, come back through center, and come back to Dandasana just to check in and see how the body's doing before we visit the other side. And again, notice if you can just be still. Great. We'll go ahead and try the other side now. So bend the right knee. The right leg might cross to the outside edge of the left leg. The left leg might bend and the heels swim outside of your right hip. Then see if you can push down into the right big toe and wrap your right arm around your left, or left arm around your right knee, and then right hand might come to the right or back behind you. And then again, before you twist, you inhale and lengthen through the spine. So top of sacrum comes forward to that inner right thigh, and then you exhale and rotate towards the right. And then on this side, notice if you can soften the shoulders away from the ears. You can reach out through the crown of your head and just observe and notice how things are happening, how the body is working, how the breath is working. Got another 3 to 5 slow, steady breaths on this side. And at the end of your next exhalation, you're gently going to unwind and extend both legs forward. Now, if you're sitting on a blanket, you might continue to sit on a blanket, or you might remove it. It's totally up to you, but we're going to bring both hands back behind us. Your fingertips are going to point in the direction of your toes. And then you're going to bend your knees and walk your feet close to your pelvis. Now make sure your feet are about hip distance apart for you. And you're going to bend the elbows, hug the elbows towards each other, shoulder blades on back. And you might just press forward and stay here, finding a nice stretch across the front of your chest. You might feel the top of your sacrum lift you up into a reverse plank tabletop thing. And we're going to stay here. And you'll notice that if you've come up to that reverse tabletop, keep drawing your chin towards your chest. Keep pressing down through the hands, hugging the shoulder blades onto the back. And then notice if you can roll your inner thighs down. Once you've got that, lift the top of your sacrum up. And then some of you might be able to draw the gaze up towards the sky and then maybe even back behind you. But again, we're paying attention to the notion that future pain and suffering can be avoided if we're just really cognizant of what choices we're making now. And so you're just pausing and you're breathing. At the end of your next exhalation, you'll lower your pelvis back down. Go ahead and extend your legs forward and sit up for a moment in Dandasana. Okay. Great. Now, if you have a bony bum, I encourage you to sit back on that blanket. If you don't have a bony bum, you don't need to. But you're going to bend your knees once again and hold on to the tops of your shin bones. Paying attention to the top of your sacrum, you want that to still keep coming forward. You're going to lean back. So top of sacrum coming forward, lean back. Hands will now come to the underside of your calves or maybe the backs of your thighs, whatever that works for you. And then one leg is going to come up, oh buddy. Then the other leg is going to come up, oh buddy. And then you're going to see if you can hug the shoulder blades onto your back. Heart and sternum reaches forward. And here we go for a first minute hold here. And you're going to pause and you're going to breathe and heart and sternum lift. Top of sacrum comes forward. Yep. And so for this first minute, you can just hold on, see how it's going. We're going to be here for 2. So if you want to try to release your hands for the second minute, by all means, go ahead. But we're going to be here for 2 minutes. So you're going to breathe. You're going to notice, where is there tension in your mouth? Maybe it's not so necessary. Leads to tension in our throat and a headache in our heads. We don't need that. How can the breath become steadier and more even? Okay, we're entering our second minute. So some of you might want to take your hands off your calves. And you can almost think of like just holding the hands there, but there's no effort. So like here, you're definitely holding on. But here you can have the hands there. And it's like they're just gentle guides. They're not really doing anything, but for some reason in my head, it feels like it's a little easier. And so we're pausing and we're breathing and we're noticing what we notice. Our top of sacrum is still coming forward. Great, and we've got our last 5 breath cycles here. Big breaths in, big breaths out. Nice job, guys. Take one more breath. Awesome sauce. Hands will come to the backs of the thighs. Slowly lower one foot, slowly lower the other. Pull your heart forward. Yeah. And then go ahead and extend your legs long and lay down on your back. Now, when you come on your back, please make sure there is nothing underneath your spine and also make sure your blocks are somewhere easily accessible to you. We haven't done core work in a long time, and today we did the forearm plank and then we did Navasana, and so you're just going to see how you're doing. We've just got about 30 seconds on the back, so just let yourself be still there. Notice if your head is centered on your spine or it's kind of cocked off to one side or the other. Awesome sauce. Okay, let's move on. Go ahead and bend your knees and plant your feet hip distance apart. Make sure your feet are pretty close to your pelvis, and some of you will slide a block between your upper inner thighs, some of you will not. And then all of you, let's have our palms face up towards the sky. Notice how that invites the shoulder blades onto your back. When you're ready, you'll inhale, push down through your feet, push down through your shoulders and arms, push down through your head and lift those hips high. You might then grab the outer edges of your mat. You might walk the hands underneath you and interlace the fingers. And you might just robot those arms up there. But wherever you are, I want you to draw the upper arm onto the floor, drawing the shoulder blades onto the back. Press down into your pinky toes to lift the outer hips up. And if you're using that block, which looks like all of us are, hug into that block, lengthen tailbone, pubic bone forward, and then notice where the weight is on the back of the head. Is there still length in the back of the neck? Is the sternum still able to lift the chin? The chin draws towards the sternum. And we're going to pause and we're going to breathe. And you're going to notice what you notice here. You might observe that by the base of this shape, or by the nature of this shape, it feels easier to inhale than it does exhale. Continue to keep the legs active, the arms active, the breath steady. You've got your last 3 to 5 breath cycles here. Awesome sauce. At the end of your next exhalation, you'll release your hands, you'll untuck your shoulders, you'll bring your pelvis back down to the floor and pause. And you'll just notice. Pay attention to what's alive and active in you. It's interesting because I do think there's so much insight in this sutra. Very often the things I regret the most are the things that at some point in time I knew before I did them that it wasn't such a good idea, and yet I did it anyways. And yet this might just be part of the human experience to have that experience. Okay. That being said, let's go ahead and remove that block from between our thighs. And now you can place one or both blocks underneath your sacrum. So we're going to take a supported bridge into Viparita Karani, legs up the wall. So this really depends upon your body. And before we go anywhere, I want each of you to make sure that that block is in such a place that it really feels stable for you. So if I then ask you to lift one leg up to the sky and the other leg up to the sky, you won't feel like you're going to teeter over. So once you feel like your block or blocks are placed where you want them to be, you'll lift one leg up and then the other leg up to meet it. Nice job, guys, or gals, ladies. And then let's do a Barbie floint. So I want you to spread through your toes, press up through the big toe mound, the pinky toe mound, and energize those legs. Legs can be together if that feels okay on your sacrum, or they can be hip distance apart if that feels better for your sacrum. You're choosing what works best for you because we're going to be here for about 2.5 to 3 minutes. And as you're in this shape, the Kriya that my teacher teaches with this is that as you inhale, you draw your awareness from the crown of your head all the way down to your pelvis. And as you exhale, the awareness travels from the pelvis back up towards the crown of your head. And so we'll just notice that as the body breathes in, the awareness travels down the spine. As the body breathes out, the awareness travels up the spine. And again, just keep the awareness still on the breath. We're moving from the more gross objects of focus to the more subtle objects of focus. And it's really interesting. Patanjali discussed that in the Yoga Sutras, there are different states of samadhi. And he actually has like 6 different states of samadhi based upon the object of focus. And so as you go from the more gross to the more subtle aspects, it changes your experience of samadhi as well as the results that you have. And so as we're here for this last minute or so, I want you to continue to just check in and tune in with the breath. Noticing and feeling how that's working right now for you in your body. Great. Very gently, you're going to bend one knee and then the other and draw the feet back to the floor. Engage the backs of the legs before you lift your hips, and then remove both blocks. Bring the pelvis straight down, and some of you might want to go straight into Supta Baddha Konasana with the soles of the feet together, the knees open and splayed like a book. Some of you might feel like there's something else that you need to do before you go into Supta Baddha Konasana. And then place the arms wherever is best for you. So whether that means arms out to the side, hand on belly, hand on heart, or arms crossed, giving yourself a hug. You choose what works best for you. Notice if you need to reposition your head so the head is in line with the spine. Great. And so we're going to spend the next few minutes here. I encourage you to make sure that the knees are properly supported where you can be still. And then in this shape, become aware of the rising and the falling of sensation. The invitation that my teacher often gives for Shavasana is that presence fills the mind, and the mind is filled with presence. And so as you're watching sensation as it rises and falls, how can presence fill the mind? And how can the mind be filled with presence? You'll continue to rest here for a few more moments on your own. I'll let you know when it's time to come out. Gently return your awareness. And as you come back, just take a moment to check in. Very gently, you'll make your way into a long, stretching pose. And I encourage you to move in the way that feels best to you. Gently, you'll make your way over to your right side. And you'll just pause there for a moment. And start to make your way to a tall, comfortable seat. And as you come up, I do encourage you to elevate your pelvis on a block or blanket. I also encourage you to keep your body warm if you tend to get cold. And for the first minute that you're seated, I want you to fidget around a little bit so it really feels like you are able to be comfortable so that you can come to a place of stillness. And then once you're established with that, we're going to do a few rounds of Nadi Shodhana. So your left hand, index finger, and middle finger will touch, other three fingers glued together, and that left hand can either face down or face up on your left thigh, depending upon what feels better to you. Your right hand, the index finger will tuck in, the middle finger and I don't know, other finger will too, but then the ring finger comes to the outside edge of your left nostril and the thumb comes to the outside edge of your right nostril. And then many of you might want to swing the right elbow forward and let it rest in the middle of your chest. So it feels like it's just sort of, I don't know, mine feels like it's resting literally on my chest. And then you'll just gently exhale all the breath from your mouth. Close your right nostril, inhale through your left. Top of your inhalation, you'll close the nostril, maybe pause for a moment and exhale out, then through the right. Pause at the bottom, and then when you need to, you'll draw the breath in through the right. Top of your inhalation, you'll close the right nostril and pause for a moment before you exhale through the left. Bottom of the exhale, pause for a bit, and then you'll inhale when you need to. And so you'll just continue on your own. If allergies or sinuses are blocked, you can do this mentally. And we're just noticing that momentary pause at both the top and the momentary pause at the bottom. In that pause, the mind really has the capacity to become still. And so as we breathe for just a few more moments, I encourage you to notice how you can keep the spine tall and erect, and yet soften any muscles you don't need. How you can keep the heart space open and the breath calm and easy. Go ahead and complete the cycle that you're on. And the next time you're left, or you exit through the left nostril, lower your right hand. Now, as you're here, just bring your awareness to the tip of the nose, to the nostrils, and you're just noticing what the breath feels like for 3 breath cycles. And as you continue to breathe, I'd like you to become aware of just how the breath feels passing through the tips of the nostrils. You might begin to observe that the more that you really let go of efforting, the more that you really soften into the breath, you might start to feel that, yes, there's air that's passing in the nose and out the nose, but there's something else that travels with it. That something else might be traveling up to your third eye center, and something else might be traveling across the soft palate of your mouth or even down to your heart. But something else is your prana, it's your life force, it's your vitality. In many ways, it seems that future suffering can be avoided when we really listen to the spark of intuition, of inspiration. It really comes to us all the time if we're just sensitive enough to notice it when it does. And so, as you take your last 3 to 5 breath cycles here, I invite you to just soften a bit more and notice where that natural pulsation is for you, finding a sense of awareness of its presence, of its guidance. At the end of your next exhalation, you'll gently guide your hands to heart center. Press the palms into each other. Receive the weight of your thumbs and lift your heart towards your hands. Soften your chin towards your chest and an internal prayer of reverence to that light, to that energy, to that guidance. We bow by saying, "The light within me honors and salutes the light within each of you. Namaste." Mm.